welcome everyone to today's episode of Sip and Style. Today I am joined by Jimmy Estrada, the co-founder of Jayla Payments.
Yes, sir. You got it.
Absolutely. So I'm super excited to have him on, hear his story. So without further ado, Jimmy, tell me a little bit about your story prior to Jayla Payments. Like, what were you doing? What led you to this? What was your story like leading up to this?
Oh, great question, man. Definitely got into payments by accident. I was in healthcare doing consulting. A little behind that, I was born in Glendale, California, in the LA area. And I had moved to Puerto Rico. Then I moved to Texas, got out of high school. I was going to get into the music industry. That was my goal. Ended up taking a different route. And I was working at a dermatology clinic. So just started kind of learning a lot of the business side of it. So without even planning it, I kind of started like a healthcare consulting business. I was helping practices start their own businesses, hire their staff, pick the correct EMR, get a network with the credentials with their insurance companies. And every doctor needed a way to take payments.
Yep.
So here I came, and I have a good friend named Andrew Yu, who's the owner and co-founder of Business Payment Systems. And I would reach out to him and say, hey, I need a terminal for this client. And before you knew it, I was in the payment space.
Nice. So you saw a problem and you're like, I could figure that. I could solve that.
Yeah.
I love that. Like, how important do you think it is in business to solve other people's problems?
I think at the end of the day, that's really where businesses become businesses.
Yeah.
A lot of times people think, like, why would somebody? I just recently heard with this young girl who realized there's a lot of kids being born in China and they want American names with meanings. So she started a business with, I'll give you some American names with meanings.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, you got to find, everyone has a different problem, a different want. And once you find those problems or the wants for people, you don't really necessarily think of it as a business, but it's amazing that you could actually cater and serve and give, and there's a way to actually make profit out of it. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah. What's the payment? I mean, I know nothing about it. What's the payment business like? Is it I would imagine it's somewhat hands off, but I feel like that's an ignorant take. Like, how much do you actually have to put into this? That's
a great question. It all depends on the clients. A lot of people will go out there and sell you. All you got to do is put a terminal there and walk away and make money.
That's what I would think, right?
That's the way.
What would the average person would think, but I'm sure it's more
that's
than
the way
that.
to promote it. But then you start asking questions, is like, how did the terminal get there?
Yeah.
How does the terminal know where the money should go to? How does the terminal know to print out a receipt with the proper address and phone number? So there are things in it, what we call onboarding, that needs to be implemented. And also, in today's time, many people are not using terminals. I mean, a lot of retail is, but if you're looking at for like an online store, how do you set up an online store to take payments on their website? How do you send a payment link? So there's components to it. Because of technology, things are a lot smoother. Back in the day, everything was like either dial, but now with Wi-Fi, now with integrations, it makes things a lot smoother. I do this full time. I enjoy what I do, and I think that a lot of people want to sign a client up and just leave. I like to be involved. I like to be a part of their extension. I think at the end of the day, you kind of add value that way. You could always, I think it's very similar to what you guys may do. You may sell a custom suit and say, okay, they're gone, that's it. But I think it's important to have a relationship with your client, not only because they'll come back again for another suit, but it's great to have that relationship, to be that guy in your local community that is able to serve them and say hi. You're not always selling something, but actually build true relationships.
Yeah, that's so awesome. I'm a firm believer in relationships in business and in everything that I do. It's, your network is your net worth. How important to you is keeping good relationships with your clients?
Oh man, I think that's everything, because whether you're in payment space, when I was in healthcare, when I left the healthcare space and I started focusing primarily in payments, I reached out back to those contacts. And if I would have burned any bridges with those contacts, if they didn't have any true, confidence in me, that call would have been completely different.
Yeah.
So it's like, I hate to use a boyfriend-girlfriend example, but if you and your ex break up and you're like, it didn't work out, but you want to be able to still see them and just say hi from a distance. It's kind of weird that you show up and there was some beef and all of a sudden you got to like go to a different restaurant. That's not cool. But I think that's the same way with business. You don't want to burn a bridge with somebody where then all of a sudden, things don't work out. It's fine. We shake hands, we move on. But I think it's very important. Plus, ultimately, it's not about just making money. It's at the end of the day, you never know if who's working for you will one day be someone you'll have to work for.
Exactly.
So I think as a principle, everybody deserves the respect, the kindness, you just never know. You
Yeah,
know?
100%. I mean, I could look at that in my own life. We were just talking about it pre-show, like going to high school with Donald. Like I never knew, like when we were 14-year-old kids, like we didn't see this. Neither of us saw this. And, but I kept a good relationship with him, and here I am, and riding this amazing wave with him. And
That's a perfect example, because when I started this, as I mentioned, Andrew, I had met him through church. We had met through church. We were talking business, and we built a friendship. Him and his wife Maggie. We built this friendship with my wife as well, and we became good friends. So it was much easier to transition to open that door. And I do know that sometimes people use friendship, and people say don't go in business with friends. But the reality is, a person's character. We all have friends that, when I was in high school, I had a good friend that I loved hanging out with, but I didn't want him around when my mom was around because the conversations were going to be different. But at the end of the day, I think it's very important to build relationships with individuals, whether or not you got a business. Once again, like I said, you just never know where you may need a favor at one time, or how they may need a favor from you. And I think that's important. That's what life's all about.
yeah, what's your number one tip on building strong relationships?
Being honest. Don't be cheesy. Be honest. Don't overpromise. Don't just try to close a deal because it's a win-win for you. It's got to be something that's a win for them. And if you could sleep at night knowing that it was also a win for you, that's way better. But if you're only thinking about yourself on how can I make $1 here, and you're not really thinking about them, 2-3 months from now, a solution you gave them may not work.
Yeah.
The suit you gave them may not be the actual cut that they were expecting. If you're like, I just sold it, it's not really what it's about. I've had a great experience with you guys, but that to me, it's really where customer service comes in play. Yeah. But outside of that, I think you never want someone to feel like they have to be with you. They need to work with you based on just, I owe them. Yeah. It's got to be a true relationship. But anyway, at the end of the day, I do think that friendship, true relationship with an individual, I think that means it. I would take that over even trying to get an account and make $1.
Yeah. What was your? I did not intend for this to be all about relationships, but I love relationships.
Yeah.
I love all the relationships that I've been able to acquire. What was your relationship like with Seth and working with him?
Yeah.
I mean, I love Seth. Like Seth helped me do all of this. And so, what was your relationship like with Seth and
so
Tweeds?
I mean, I make a phone call. I'm needing to get a suit for a specific date. And I tell my wife, we're driving down from Miami. Let's find someone that we could Google. We Googled someone. We found Tweeds. We called. Nobody picked up. I think it was, I don't remember if it was on Sunday, but I want to say it was a Sunday afternoon. So I'm like, I'll just leave a message. And then I got a phone call. And I got a phone call from Donald.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the number that I had called. So I was getting a call from him from his cell phone. I explained to him my situation. And as soon as I explained my situation, I said, is this realistic or not? And he said, we can make it happen. It's going to be hard, but we can make it happen. Can you be at the store today? I said, I'm driving from Miami. I could be there in an hour or two. And he says, yeah, if you can make it today, we'll do everything we can. So I show up. I meet Seth. We do the measurements. And I said, I need it for this date. And it's going to be in Texas. So I need it the day before so I could fly out. And it's interesting you asked me this question because the store, I think, is very untraditional. So the day I'm supposed to get my suit, they don't have my suit. He says, we'll get this taken care of. We'll get it to you in Texas. I show up to Texas. What I do know is that Seth actually goes to DHL. This is awesome. I'm getting excited because we're talking about relationships. He has a relationship with these individuals. He shows up. He takes some goodies, right? It's not the first time to make sure I got to find where the suit is at.
Yeah.
He finds it. I end up getting the suit delivered to our headquarters in Dallas at the time, or not Dallas, I'm sorry, McAllen. It gets delivered to the office. Our office is closed when it's delivered, but someone's out there. Anyway, long story short, we end up getting the suit that I was supposed to leave in Tampa with in Texas, and I was able to wear it. We got it the day of the event.
I love it.
Now, for me, it was last minute, so I understood. I didn't give Tweeds enough time, but Donald said, we're going to get this taken care of. Seth said, we're going to get this taken care of. And I started doubting when I'm in the hotel room, like, I got the shoes. I'm going to show up in some jeans, and they made it happen, and I appreciate that.
It's fun, hearing that side of the story because I've been on Seth's side of the story more times than I can count. We take 10-day rushes, and it's very nerve-wracking on our end. we're paying attention to the tracking a lot. And I've been to DHL in Clearwater multiple times by now. And yeah, it's usually a nick of time. I grab it, I get over to my client, or I ship it. I've actually been on took a flight for a client once because it was just, there was no way. It was the same day, wedding. The package arrived at DHL that morning, 6 a.m. I drove to Tampa International, and I got on a plane and went to Asheville, Asheville, and dropped that off to him at his hotel room, steamed it up, and it was perfect.
But see, that to me, that's what customer service is all about. And I told my wife, I told her, it was funny that day, I told her, you know, it's interesting because Seth has a relationship with DHL.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if he's ever taken goodies before, but I know that day he took him goodies because he had shared this with me later on. People tend to see through you and say, okay, this guy doesn't just care about getting this package there. He truly cares about getting the package there because of his customer.
Yeah.
Right.
100%.
Because it is what it is. Ultimately, I knew I had already paid. I'm still going to have a suit. So, you know, I just won't probably wear it the day I wanted to wear it. When you mentioned that, the first thing that came to my mind, there was this guy that shared a story years ago. I used to work at Radio Shack. I don't even know if you guys even know what that is. Radio Shack.
Yeah. I'm old enough. I'm old enough to
Radio
know.
Shack, Kmart, Payless, all them places. So I used to work at Radio Shack, and this gentleman tells me this amazing story. He tells me the story that he doesn't tell me the story. His wife tells me the story. She tells me she's at Olive Garden, I believe it is, and the waiter asked her, what would you like to drink? And she said, can I get a Coke? I'm not sure it was Coke or Pepsi, but one of those products. And whatever it was, they had one or the other. So they had Pepsi, but they didn't have Coke, something like that.
Yeah.
Well, she says, the waiter says, well, we don't have Pepsi, but we do have Coke. And she's like, it's okay, I'll just do water. She says the waiter leaves and takes a little longer than usual, comes back with a can of what she wanted and a glass of ice. And basically what he had done, he had went across the street, he used some of his tip money, went to like a vending machine and got the drink.
I love that.
So she shares this story with us, and she was talking about customer service. Radio Shack was about customer service. And I thought it was amazing. Now, the reason she shares this story with us is because she ends up telling me that that guy was a waiter, ends up being my boss, which ends up being her husband, and they end up getting married. So she jokingly around said, hey, don't do this to get married. But the reality was he went out of his way to do something special for her. Whether he found her attractive or not, that's a different story.
Yeah.
But I think the motive behind it shows that, hey, he knew he was going to get a tip of at least, I don't know, let's pretend $1 was the cost of that. He knew he was going to get a tip, but even if he didn't, I think it shows like, hey, he actually cared about, he knew what drink I wanted, and I'll settle for water, and he made it a point to still give me what I wanted. I think that shows a lot. It took maybe an extra 5 minutes, but I think it changes the history of their future. That definitely happened.
Yeah.
So anyway, I thought that was a cool story.
No, I love that story. It reminds me of a book that I read, Unreasonable Hospitality. Have you heard, the one? Yeah. Unreasonable Hospitality is such a good book if you putting you guys on.
And I want to add,
if you're in
you don't mind,
service.
even it was written by one of the guys who found the 11 Madison.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you've gone there in New York, one of the greatest restaurants. I took my kids just last month for the first time. It's an amazing experience. And I was telling them, my daughter was drinking water, and so here, whenever we go out, my kids drink water like crazy. And when they're done drinking water, they're waiting and waiting. Dad, can I have yours? Because sometimes, it takes a waiter or waitress some time to bring the water. And it's really on my kids. They drink too much water.
Yeah.
Nothing against the waiter or the waitress. They're just drinking water. Well, here we are at 11 Madison, and the cup would just be this much left, and they would come and they would fill it. And I told my daughter, let's count and see how long it takes. It was taking less than 20 seconds where they would fill the water up, she would drink it on purpose, and whoop, they would come. And they were small cups. They would come. And they had a way how to enter, a way how to exit. The revolving door, I think it's called revolving door. They had to make sure everything was so exact, precise, and the service was, and it goes back to that book. The book talks about that, and it talks about that restaurant. And it changes the game because for us, we left there, and to this day, my kids like, oh, we love New York. It was the first time in New York City. And they say, we really enjoyed the experience we had there. The food was awesome. The experience was as good as the food, if not better. And I think that's, to us, is like, we want to go back again.
Yeah.
So anyway, I encourage anyone to read the book for sure.
100%.
And to definitely check out the restaurant, 11 Madison in New York. It was just, yeah, it was incredible.
It was awesome. Yeah. I mean, cruise lines are like that too. Like, you've ever went on a good, like a Royal Caribbean cruise, like They're on it. Like
Yeah.
no, service and being unreasonable with the level of hospitality you provide, I just think is such a no-brainer. It builds relationships like we've been talking about this whole time. But I do want to kind of jump back into the payment space for you, because I do want you to have some time on that. But you talked about kind of going from, working with insurances,
Like
healthcare insurances, and then into the payment space. Like, what did you go to school to get into payments, or?
No, that's a great question. So when I graduated high school, my job was my dream was to be a songwriter and producer.
Mine too.
Yeah, was it really?
Yeah,
That's awesome.
that's why we vibe.
Yeah. I
it.
moved back from Texas. I moved back to LA. I went to Los Angeles recording school. I was working in the studios, learning how to work in the studios. I always like saying this because it was awesome, and it shows my age. My first internship was at the studio where Jodeci. There was a studio that Jodeci, Casey and Jojo owned, and for me, it was like I was really big in R&B and hip hop. So right across the street from us was like Dr. Dre's studio, Raphael Sadiq, all these big guys. So for me, it was exciting, right?
Yeah.
And I knew I'm going to do music. So I knew in high school, I'm not going to go to college. I'm going to do music. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I ended up having literally a come to Jesus moment. And I realized, you know what? This is just not going to be good for me. The path I was taking. Love the music, but anybody who knows the industry, if you don't have a strong will, it could easily eat you up alive. And I was married at the time, still married. We'll be 21 in March.
Nice.
My wife was, thank you. My wife was pregnant. She was, I think, 7 months pregnant. And I tell her, yeah, I'm not doing this music thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, you better figure something out.
Yeah.
Because, you didn't go to college and we're barely paying our bills here. What are you going to do? And anyway, long story short, I started getting into healthcare because I was working. That was my day job. And I decided I'm going to learn everything I can in healthcare. And that was basically my college. I learned everything I could in the healthcare space, from how to build the CPT codes, ICD-10 codes. At the time, they were ICD-9. How does the business side work? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nurse. So I can't do the clinical side. Once I learned that, and by default, I ended up becoming a consultant in healthcare. It felt good that I could go to a doctor who went to school and I could show him how to make money. I could show him how he actually gets patients, how he gets paid by these insurance companies. So for me, it was exciting.
Yeah.
So when I got into the payment space, I got into the payment space because that was one of the solutions they needed. Okay, so I have a medical assistant, I have office, I'm in network with with the insurance company. Well, when somebody comes to make a payment, how are you going to take that copay? So I would set them up for those payments. And I got excited getting into that part of it because I was downloading the terminals. I kind of was hands-on. And there was some profits being made off of that too. So that was awesome. Because of that, I decided, you know what? Let me start dealerships. Let me start things outside of healthcare. And I started talking to other business owners because one thing I knew was that everybody out there that does what I do, they offer payments. Mm-hmm. They could offer the same solution I could offer. I wish I could say, I got a secret. No. There's no secret. They could offer just about everything I could offer. The only difference besides saving money, because that's always where it goes down to, we can save you money, really comes down to customer service. That's really where it comes down to. Not to knock the Stripes or Square. I think they do a great job at what they do. But if you need to call Stripe, if you need to call Square, it's going to be either 1-800 number, it's going to be an email. My clients, they have a way to text me. They have a way to text us, to call us, to email us. I'm hands-on. If we're here in the Tampa area, I go to Dallas constantly. We'll be there next month. I visit clients. I talk to clients because at the end of the day, I think it's that touch. So they like that they're saving money. Mm-hmm. They like that they have a good solution on taking payments. But when things happen, without boring you, but when things happen like chargebacks or certain things happen that they need help, they need feedback, they need, hey, my money didn't get to my bank account, whatever the case may be, that's where the customer service really comes in. And I feel that's where we add the value to the customers.
I love that. You mentioned you had like a come to Jesus moment. And I did read it on your LinkedIn before you came in. Like, how important is your faith and is God and all that you do?
Yeah, I mean, faith for me is everything. I've always said that it's everything because, like anyone else, we have our days that we wake up. The days just don't seem as bright as they should. I always tell people, there was moments that I was walking my life without faith, and there were dark moments. Yeah. There's times even now in my faith I walk with dark moments, but the difference is I have something to hold on to. And to me, that's Jesus. I mean, it's really changed my life dramatically because from the moment I decided I wasn't going to go into the music industry And I walked away. I mean, I walked away from a potential contract because I wanted to say, I want to live a more righteous life. Not that it's easy, it's difficult, right? But holding on to him, it completely turned my life around. Like I said, my wife and I, at the time, we were still working, and my kid is born, and I literally saw him change my life dramatically. Not just financially, but in every aspect of it. I never thought I'd be owning a company. I never thought I would be also a VP of another company. That was not even in my educational background. It's all been really, grind and experience, but it's all the doors that he opened that I could tell you stories upon stories upon stories. The day I decided to start my own business, I had literally stopped working in corporate America. I was in healthcare still. I stopped working in corporate America. I moved to Oregon for 4 months because I wanted to know more about the Bible. And I wasn't going to go to college or anything. So I went to this Bible school. It was called Arise in Oregon, Eugene, Oregon, not too far from the University of Oregon. And I went there for 4 months. I wasn't working. And my wife was with me, of course, and my daughter at the time was 4 years old. This is a crazy story. So first day of class, I'm excited because I'm going to tell my wife everything I'm learning, right? So I get out of class and I'm like, hey, babe, I need to tell you something. And she's like, no, I need to tell you something. I'm like, babe, my stuff's about Jesus. It's more important. And she's like, no, you want to hear this. I said, what's up? She said, I'm pregnant.
Oh.
No job, no insurance. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And well, we know how she got pregnant, but I was like, oh yes, Jesus, I need your help now. So I remember that a couple months from there, we go to the doctor and the doctor's like, yeah, you're pregnant with 2. Wow. My wife was pregnant with twins, no job, no insurance. We moved back to Texas with literally, I think it's like 32, 37 cents in our bank account.
Yeah.
And for the first time, I looked at my wife and I think most men could relate to this. We're called to provide and to protect. 32 cents ain't much providing. And I looked at my wife and I saw this smile on her face. There was no worry. It was like, man, God's got us. And that gave me so much peace. And from there on, God literally started opening doors. It was that same month I started my consulting business. It was that same month that I started really getting into different avenues in healthcare that from a employment perspective, self-employment perspective, and it completely changed the traction of our life. So, faith is everything. You got your good days, you got your bad days, but it means everything to me.
I love that. No, for me, it's like something I've always I've had from a very young age. I remember, my parents kind of struggling a little bit, and in life to do things, and I would always just remember being like, telling my mom God always provides. Always. And it always helped. She told me it always helped her. And that's something that I just keep with me. It's like, I'm always going to be fine. No matter what, God didn't put it in my life because God didn't put it in my life unless He thought I couldn't handle it.
That is so true. And I was going to say something without sounding so churchy, but there's one thing that, even in my walk, I haven't always been as faithful as I need to be, and He still comes through. Yeah. There's this old hymn that says, great is thy faithfulness. And the reason that caused my attention, because it's not saying great is my faithfulness. Because my faithfulness falters constantly. Yeah. One day I'm not. One day, and it's a walk, right? But it's amazing that He's faithful regardless. And to me, it's like the little I could do is just say, hey, everything I got is because of Him. This morning, me and my wife were just talking about that. I said, everything I got is because of Him. There's things that I definitely want to improve in my life, spiritually, physically, mentally, and I just lean on Him because there's easier days than others, but I couldn't do this without Him. I really couldn't. And seeing how now that story told about my twins are going to be 13 next month. We're 2 months. They'll be turning 13. And my oldest is about to graduate high school. And there was literally a moment that I sat my wife and my twins and my 4-year-old, at that time she was 5, and we're like, how are we going to do this financially? We had no idea how we were going to do it. We were struggling every month. And to see how God has literally guided us to this point, it's amazing, man. So,
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. We are kind of getting close to the end. I did want to ask you 2 more questions. What is one book you would recommend to? I know we already kind of plugged Unreasonable Hospitality, but what's another book that you would?
There's a book that I'm reading with my kids. And it's blown my mind. I wish I would have read it when I was younger. It's aimed primarily for teenagers, but I think it's so good for us as adults. It's called Do Hard Things. Do Hard Things. Do Hard Things. I wish I knew the name of the author, but it's called Do Hard Things. You can find it on Amazon and whatnot. And that book so far has been It's called Do Hard Things. There's some faith involved in it, but basically the whole point is don't run away from hard things. Hard things and what we call failures is really what's going to help us to succeed. So it's a awesome book. Very practical.
I have not read that book, and that sounds like a book.
Very practical.
Definitely reading next. It's going in my Audible, and I will definitely listen to it.
Tell me what you think. I like it. So
beautiful. Why do you dress up? Why'd you come to tweeds? What inspires you to dress up, and why do you do it?
So, I think it's important how we carry ourselves. I love you guys' jackets.
Yeah.
I love you guys' suits. I need to get more. My wife was like, hey, I want you to get another one and whatnot. I think it's important. I mean, I do definitely like to dress up. I'll be 100% honest. I'm more of a jeans, t-shirt guy, shorts, basketball shorts. But when I went to Europe, I realized they get up and they dress to impress at all times. And I was telling my wife, babe, like here, don't get me wrong, I like my sweats and my t-shirts, but we landed into Rome. This is our second time in Europe. We landed into Rome and the kids were hungry and I felt so out of place that I was dressed. I was dressed comfortable, but it was so different. I told my wife, I like that because one of the things I realized is when you dress up, it changes your whole mood, right? Like you dress up, it just feels different. And I get it. There's times you want to, just not be dressed up, but I think it changes your mood. It shows people you care, whether it's in business or not. And ultimately, it feels good. It feels good to walk around and say, hey, I feel nice. I think everybody deserves a little bit of that.
100%. I love that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on the show,
Thank you, man.
Jimmy.
Thank you.
Your story is amazing, and I love your talk about faith and God. And very blessed to have you.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Let's do a little cheers.
Yes, sir.
Cheers. Thank you for joining this episode of Sip and Style.